Well, okay, gang. We've entered the twilight zone, or I don't know. You may call it a rabbit hole of trying to build a brand new wiring harness for a bike with today's parts available. It's absolutely insane anymore. You guys know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I was hanging with some real good friends of mine, and they said they saw the video with the on the wiring on the bike, and they're like, "Yeah, it doesn't sound like a good time." And I'm in agreement with them. It's not a good time. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, here's where we're at. The anything coming from the engine here, I'm not going to be able to finalize because that has my stator wires, my oil sender, the neutral safety switch, all that stuff. I'm gonna have to finish that when the regulator rectifier comes in the mail. What was on here, the regulator and rectifier were roached, like just about everything else electrical with this bike. Um, so I can't finish that. But where the problem that we're having today and last night is this. That's our winker, flasher, blinker, whatever you want to call it. I like that one because I was going to mount it. I was going to come in and make a provision back here where I could have a stud sticking out. I was going to mount it there. It'd have been small. It's black. You probably would have never known it was there. Well, it took a dump on us. So I got this one, and this one's made in the USA. It's a LED compatible. Novita, nothing. There's no signs of life with that one. I checked it with my meter. I had it on the bike. So where we're at with it is we have no flash. Not going to have flash without, the flasher. These just strobe. That's built into that thing. If it's got power, it does that. This one, this LED back here needs the flash. So I'm just going to forget all about that and carry on with the rest of what I have to do. I did get this switch in. I don't know if I mentioned it or not in any other videos, but this master on the other one was so corroded and in such bad shape, it wasn't worth rebuilding. And on top of that, it had the switch in it, that the lever would mash. That switch, all the wiring was broke off at the base of it. So what I did, I got this master with no provision for any electrics. And I got this to go in line. When it gets hydraulic pressure, it makes the connection, and you got a brake light. On the other side, where I'm at with it is I took for the rear. This is my almost power for the foot pedal brake, rear brake. So I've got it plenty long where I've got to fabricate the foot controls. I don't know how that's going to pan out as far as location with that switch. So I made it plenty long. I got our points wires that come up here to the coil. You got two of them. I think the way it works on this Honda is one set of points runs 1 and 3, one set of points runs 2 and 4, or something like that. Anyway, we're going to clean those up. So I'm getting pretty close. I've got to fabricate something for these signals or whatever my buddy sends. I was hoping he'd pick the front turns out. These I just had sitting on the shelf. Still don't know what we're going to do about the headlight, but we're getting closer. Once I find I can wire everything up and just leave these wires that feed that flasher, just leave them hanging out separate and deal with that whenever we get a good flasher. But that's where it's at. Today, what I'm going to be working on is where this battery box, where I put it in there, it's a little wobbly, and I thought it might be. I'm gonna fabricate a bracket that goes around the frame here and screws to here, and then it'll be good and stable that way. That's what we're getting ready to do next. So I've got to get this battery and everything out of here, and we'll get started. Get the change hats and put the fabricator hat on. I got the battery box out because, well, with it, what I think I'm going to do is to weld me a little bit of a tab across the back of this. I'll probably stretch it from like here over to here somewhere to stiffen that up a little bit, to where I can get a screw down through it. And I'm gonna make a tab for the frame that when I put the battery box in, you run a screw through it and it gives it a little stiffness. I also want to get the provisions I was talking about putting in for the flasher, whichever one it is, whether I get a round one or whatever. I can make a little, how would you call it? A little, not a tab, but a holder for the flasher and line it with something so it's not metal crushing it. I also wanted to put on this side, I think I want to make mounts for the resistors, because I may have to use those resistors. If I can get one of those LED compatible flashers that works, I won't have to do anything for the resistors. We'll see how it works out. But anyway, I've got that work to do. Also want to make something like this. When I put the battery box in, I can drill 2 holes, slide that up, and it'll give me a place to mount the regulated rectifier. I'm just wanting to keep everything hidden as much as possible, as far as the stuff like flashers and regulated rectifiers and all that. Let's get this cleaned up, and we'll start making some tabs. Let's just get this measured out for our little thing for the regulated rectifier. I'm gonna call that 4 5/8 on that. Total on it, we'll call that 5 3/4, close to it. All right, guys, I believe we've got that bottom strap for the regulated rectifier. That'll do. And then when I get it, I'll just have to measure where to drill. So pop that back off, we'll have a mount. That's cool. All right, guys, now I need to build the mount for this. Okay, I'm gonna, like we discussed before, build me some kind of little bracket here with a screw hole in it. On the other side, on the frame side, it's going to sit just below that, but I've got to wrap it around the down tube. So I need something about, I think I made the other one about 2 inches. So we'll cut this piece off at 2 inches and we'll put it in the press and get that round-ish. I can form it to the bike. If it's a little sharp, it won't matter. I'm gonna go ahead and get this squared up, cut off, and I'll meet you at the press. I realize this is kind of a crappy way to get this job done, but I need that thing in a semicircle, and I've got what I need to make it look like a semicircle. That's all I really care about. Wish I had a whole bunch of exotic tools, but I ain't that guy. Guys, we're going to test fit our piece. That's just about it. That's just about it. Let me flip it over and make sure the other side. All right. That's real good. All right, we got her clamped onto the down tube there, guys. I need to get another piece of that metal. Oh, I don't know, another couple inches to start with, and I need to get this. I need to get this radius right here. So that will be our next thing. All right, guys, decided to go another route. Let me get my gas on the welder. turned on here. What I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna go ahead and, now that I got this where I like it, I'm gonna tack it on there. I'm gonna tack that on there and then weld this, go over and measure it and just cut off what I need. The way I don't have an extra clamp I gotta use on anything. All that's going to grind out. I just wanted to hold that steady while I get to doing the real work. Alright guys, I think that has that ground out and ready to fit up against the down tube. I need to trim a little bit off of it. Yeah, I need to grind this side a little bit more, but that's getting close. Now I can, once I get it on there, I'll be able to get my length. I'll probably have to shape it out a little bit. I don't want it coming out there square. We'll do something with it. All right, because I've got to get rid of some primer off this frame, I'm gonna put this battery box back in just for a second so I can see how much. I gotta take his primer off so I can weld it. So I can weld to this frame. Okay. I'll take it off to about right there, down to about right there. That'll give me plenty of good clean metal to weld on. Idea is, I cut me a piece of this out of that stock I was using. Idea here is I'm gonna tack it here and here, and then I can finish welding it. This goes on the bike, it's welded to the frame, okay? Drop your battery box in, and I'll have a hole drilled here through both of these. I'm just gonna tap this in, leave this a little bit big, and should work great. Hopefully, I'm gonna get all this cleaned off to where I have something to weld to. All right, guys, I got our little lip tacked on there. I'm gonna see about, I got welded across the back. All right, guys, now we got to do more of the same that we always do, is put stuff together and take it apart. I want to get all this put together, these components, and get them snug down. And the point is I can't weld that to the frame until I get this pulled down. It's on those rubber insulators, and I want to make sure it is at the right height before I do any welding to the frame. So I'm gonna get these snug down where it's supposed to be. And I jammed my little shop broom in over there to get it level or squared up, squared up with the rest of the bike. So to get these tightened down, we'll be able to figure out where we want to do our welding at. All right, let's see if we can get her. Pull it back a little bit. There we go. Yeah. I like that right there. Looks good. I'm gonna run a mark right up here and a mark around this way. And I can clamp that to the bike. Get the battery box out and then clamp that to the bike right there, and Yep. Just leave me drilling a hole. Yeah, it looks good. Okay, guys, I got me a pilot through both of those. Like I said, the top one has to be a little larger so that it just, the screw just slips through. Then I've got to tap what's on the frame of the bike. So we're gonna get this battery box out of here and get that on the frame tapped, and then we'll drill the final size hole on the battery box. All right, guys, I got me a couple holes in here, and I'm tapping them out 1032 that way. Yeah, hold on a minute, I'll show you. I've got these little stainless screws I can screw in from the back side. It's going to leave a stud sticking out. Not going to be in the way of the battery because I've got insulation. It's going to go over top of these, just like when I made these bolts for this. It's going to be countersunk. That way you don't have this against your battery or whatever. So everything's going to be fine there. I'll finish tapping these holes, and we'll be ready to put the battery box in. I believe I'm going to wrap it up for the night after I get that done. After I get this battery box in completely back in there, I'll just wrap it up, and we'll do something maybe Monday. Tomorrow's Sunday, so I'm going to rest a bit. That's the plan anyway. And we'll pick something up Monday and do some kind of other thing. I've lied to you. I've lied to you again, guys. Here's what I was trying to explain. Where I took these carriage bolts and I put a slot in them. I guess you can see that. And then I just layered that cork in the bottom there to where when these are tightened down, they get sucked down, and that doesn't ever touch the battery. That's going to be the idea with these little stainless studs. Even if I have to grind a little bit off the top of them, the way I did that carriage bolt, we'll make sure the battery isn't touching. I can't put it in yet because whether I need them or not, I'm going to go ahead and make provisions for these resistors. It needs holes provided. So something like that, if I drill a hole there and there, and then fit one here, that will hide it. That way I won't have to worry about anybody ever seeing that ugly resistor. All right, okay, guys, we got our two studs in here for whatever, and we got our resistors on the back in case we need them. If I get the one that doesn't require them, I can pull this back off and get the resistors, no problem. But I am not necessarily hopeful about any of it at this point. Surely we can find one though that if I can get one of those a replacement for the original one, I think that'd be great. But I'm going to get this thing bolted down, and we can finish welding this when we finish welding the rest of the bike. I've got a whole lot of welding left to do once we get, if I can get this thing where I can run it down the road and give it a little rip, I can take it all back apart and get the welding done and be ready for paint. And I'm really looking forward to that. Really looking forward to the paint. Well, we got the box done. It's we got our little studs here, providing a place to put our relays and whatever we need to bolt down there. This piece of foam, I'd bent it back and taped it, keep from burning it up when I was welding this. I'm gonna have to re-glue that, but we got the screw in the top of it. Everything looks really, really good and stout. Figured I'd have to do that because I'd mounted it in those rubber bushings in the bottom. I figured it'd be like that, so it wasn't no big deal. We got it. Anyway, we're gonna wrap it up here, guys. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Have a good one.